StarCast is proudly sponsored by DoghouseSystems.com. If you use the code StarCast or Biscuit at checkout, you will get double memory on your next Doghouse system. And also TweakedAudio.com. Go to TweakedAudio.com for high-performance noise-reducing earbuds. Use our code StarCast and get 30% off plus free shipping on your entire order. And finally, SC2QuoteOfTheDay.com. Daily quotes from the StarCraft 2 community. The site may suck, but the quotes are sick. And make sure to go check out their t-shirts in their new store. Once again, that's SC2QuoteOfTheDay.com, and we thank them for their support. Sponsor an episode of StarCast at thestarcast.com.
Hell, it's about damn time for StarCast.
Incoming transmission.
Biscuit.
Welcome back, everyone, to the 158th episode of StarCast, the StarCraft podcast. I'm your host, Garrett Weinzierl, and joining me, as always, is Kyle Fergusson. Kyle, we're back!
From outer space, or are we doing the dinosaur movie?
I was going to go with Will Survive.
Okay.
I just walked in to find you here with that noob look upon your face.
Gotcha. I always think of that one with the brain grain, and they eat it, and they become smart dinosaurs.
That was such a weird movie, but I loved it as a kid.
Underwhelming, over-advertised.
As a kid, I freaking loved it to death. But
well, sure. Who doesn't like
I
dinosaurs?
was going to say, I'm pretty sure my standard for movies as a child was, does it have dinosaurs or does it have trains?
You
All right,
go
we're good.
through all these gauntlets of belief as a child, and there's, all the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy, but then you get to go to a museum and they say, the idea of a small little person seems more realistic that takes your teeth over this giant beast that once roamed the earth. And they go, it's real.
Yep.
Like, what? And there's all these scientists around you going, they're real, and there's movies and everything. Dinosaurs need to make a comeback. Zombies, they've had their fill. Robots could squeeze in a little more, but we need some more, like, Tarrasque dinosaur.
I blame... First of all, Tarrasque was terrible and should never come back. Secondly,
well, sure, but there's been terrible zombie games.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But none that went on for so many games and considered itself to be a popular game.
Sure. I mean, Cerebral Bore, you can't argue with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I blame Terra Nova, though, that god-awful show on whatever network it was about dinosaurs that failed miserably.
Oh, yeah.
I
then there was Dinotopia, where people had to, like, live peacefully with dinosaurs. You know what? They need Dino Riders, the TV show, live action.
Bring back Cadillacs and dinosaurs, man. That's what I want. That was a great show and series of comics.
I read one of the comics, but I never understood how the two went together. Was the Cadillac a time machine?
I forget exactly. I don't know enough about it to be an authority on the situation. But hey, man, how has your week been? It's been 2 weeks. We took off for the 4th. How has your 2 weeks been?
Yeah, wow, it was great. Had a bit of a health scare, but I'm doing just fine.
Oh, good. Did that all clear up for you?
Yes. I do not have shingles, so I'm happy to know that I'm not a 60-year-old man.
Oh, I didn't know you had shingles. I was talking about herpes.
Oh, well, they're all the kind of same strand, but so is acne. But whatever. I'm fine. I survived. I'm doing great. Had a great weekend. Played so much video games. Played a lot of World of Warcraft.
Nice. It's a good sick game if you're in the mood for sitting upright.
Sure. Well, StarCraft, not the best sick game, but played a lot of StarCraft as well. I was real proud of myself until I watched the GSL today because I thought I was being so unique. I'm just loving how I'm playing right now. I thought I'd come up with my own style here, going straight basically from Zerglings into Mutas, back down to Swarm Hosts, and then taking that up to Hive and Broodlords. But you know what? That's what every single successful person in WCS is doing right now. So watching it today, I'm like, oh, damn it. I thought I was so cool.
I'm sorry, dude. You're still cool to me.
Thanks. That means a lot. How was your weekend?
It was good. The 4th was interesting. Girlfriend and I are just like, hey, you know what we've never done on the 4th and we've always wanted to do, but we always stay away from it because we hear it's too busy? Go to the beach. So we finally just like, we're going to Walmart. We're going to get chairs and umbrellas and do this shit right. We load up the car and we go down the beach. We find a parking place at Siesta Key, which if you're not familiar with where I live or beaches in general, Siesta Key is like in the top 10 of U.S. beaches, and I live 10 minutes away from it. but I'd hardly ever go because it's swamped all the time.
Sure.
So we were just like, we don't care if we have to circle the lot 20 times. Finally get onto the beach. 90 minutes later, Wrath of God style thunderstorm rolls in.
Oh, good. Well, it is Florida after all. So
Yeah.
what? It was 12.
Well, no, it was like 3 o'clock.
Okay. Well, prime time all the same.
Yep. Yeah, it was. But we still had got a good 90 minutes of just chilling on the beach, drinking beer. So it's a good time. Other than that, not too much. Just some video gaming. Played a little WoW. Played actually a decent amount of StarCraft team games as I do. And I don't think I mentioned this on any other show. We do a lot of shows, but this is the show where I think you and I get to get a little more personal. Really bummed this week because one of my all-time favorite podcasters passed away.
Yeah.
Ryan Davis from Giant Bomb and the Giant Bomb cast. I mean, if you like this show, the chances are you like podcasts, and chances are you like video game podcasts, which means chances are you've listened to the Giant Bomb cast at some point. It's just like there's only like 2 podcasts out there I have to catch every week. One is the Morning Stream, and the other is Giant Bomb cast. So I'm really freaking sad. I never met Ryan. I don't know him. But I feel like I lost a friend. Like this guy and this personality that has been in my ear every week for years now, and it's
and the details of that story are tragic.
Oh, it's terrible. I feel so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's literally nothing else. I don't know what else you can say. I feel terrible for everyone involved. So if you have never listened to a Giant Bomb show, just go do it right now. Head on over to those forums. Show your support however you can. Because it's a great show. He was a great man, and I'm gonna miss him. So, anyways, let's talk StarCraft.
Sure.
So, we have an interview with John, better known as JoRoSaR. JoRoSaR. I forget how he said you pronounce his handle. He's got too many things capitalized.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be coming just in a bit. Since we've missed 2 weeks of shows, we figured we would start off the top covering some of the news that we missed. So we're going to kick it off with, this week, Hellbat's got nerfed and Banshee's got buffed. These were 2 things that were talked about during the balance test map that was more focused towards the Warp Prism, and that Warp Prism buff went live 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, haven't seen much happening with the War Prism, though. But a little bit more play, I guess. I don't know.
I saw it in every I watched StarTale versus IM in the GSTL. In every game that there was a Protoss player, I saw Warp Prism used.
Wow. You know what I'm not seeing at all right now is Oracles. At all.
Saw them used only in one game in that GSTL, and it didn't go well.
Man, all through the Premier League and WCS Korea, none.
Really?
Nope. Yeah, but it really shows how air toss is really how far it's come when you got to see a Stargate as part of the wall off and a fast expand.
Oh wow, yeah, that's nuts. I haven't seen that. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about what we've been watching a little later on, but. Yeah, I mean, so you've been pretty happy with your ladders. You've noticed do Terrans seem a little neutered after this Hellbat nerf? I mean, if you haven't heard, the attack damage has been decreased from Hellbats used to do 18 base damage and an additional 12 versus light, which was just hell for Lings and workers. Now that has been decreased from just straight to the base 18. You can get that plus 12 versus light back if you research the Infernal Pre-Igniter. Or to those of us who just listen to casters of Blue Flame.
And this was implemented just 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
So I haven't gotten time to get in yet. And
for whatever reason, I thought it went up yesterday.
No, and you weren't the only one. Did you hear about Bomber?
No. What happened?
So Bomber had his game coming up against Flash, and Flash has been a little heavy in the Hellbat drops. So Bomber makes this whole new strategy around Banshees. Gets in the booth that day, and the patch didn't go live when he thought it was going to go. So he had to throw all his strategies out the window and make them up on the spot.
That's rough. And he was going against Flash?
Yeah, well, and it was still kind of ingrained in his head, so he still went Banshees anyway. And actually, there's a lot of Banshees. It's all in their minds right now, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they're all now practicing Banshee builds with that in mind. So I'm sure it's probably somewhat hard to remove yourself from that equation if the patch had not yet gone live. That's such a weird thing. Like, could you imagine that? And like, if they patched basketball, all of a sudden you can actually carry the ball. You don't have to dribble it or something. Like, but it went live in the middle of the day. Like, you're in the middle of a freaking game,
right? Or you thought it was going to go live. It kind of highlights one of the problems with the patching system, that unlike World of Warcraft, when it can kind of just happen when it's ready, these things really need defined dates if it's in the middle of a tournament.
Right. There really isn't a safe day to do it because your tournament's going on every damn day. So
yeah, that's another reason why we missed some days, but really not too much has happened because we're really just in the thick of WCS right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're a StarCraft fan, you've had plenty to keep up on besides just us. So anyway, the buff that is happening to Banshees is I would call it more of a discount than a buff. The cloaking field research, making your Banshees invisible and whatnot, it's been decreased. It's been cut in half. It used to be 200 minerals, 200 gas. It is now 100 minerals and 100 gas. Methinks I'm going to play with some Banshees this week.
They're good, but as a Zerg player, I think this is a discount that is due to the fact that this isn't worth 200. I mean, as a Zerg player, I immediately think, wow, the cost of a Spire for Cloak, that's ridiculous. And nowadays, with the way we've been trained with Oracles, with Widow Mines, with incoming drops, you have detection, most likely. You probably have a Spore Crawler hanging out somewhere. And so the Cloak isn't worth that much anymore.
I mean, yeah.
And nowadays, I mean, every army has some sort of detection moving with it, even a flock of Mutalisks, just so you don't get smacked by a Widow Mine.
Yeah, TVZ is where I'm curious if this Banshee change is going to make a huge difference, what with everyone so on their toes with thanks to Widow Mines. I guess it just depends on how many Banshee builds we see that even have Widow Mines used, and etc. But yeah, you make a good point. We're seeing a lot of detection much earlier than we used to.
Well, and it's really easy and pretty low risk because Hellbats take up so much room in that medevac. You really aren't losing too much if you lose the entire drop, really. And as we saw in that Bomber game, he actually went a really old school, like MLG Dallas style, like mass regular Hellion and beat Flash's Battle Hellions. And so I think we're just going to see a big like, oh, well, I guess Hellions might actually be better anyways. But
saw a lot of Hellion play this week.
Yeah, but we've all just been so seduced by the quick deaths and splash damage that come with a Battle Hellion.
Right. I'm totally okay with this, by the way. I mean, we saw the same thing in Wings of Liberty. I mean, you remember when Wings of Liberty came out, we never saw an Infestor ever.
No, yeah.
And then some tweaking happened, and all of a sudden we saw way too many Infestors, and some nerfing happened. And it's the same thing I think is happening right now with the Hellbat, where I think we're going to see it drop off, and then I think we're going to see it where it is now more kind of an even spread of different strategies. We're not going to see just Hellbat drop after Hellbat drop after Hellbat drop.
Well, and the transformation's awesome. I mean, I'm sad that's not a transition right now. And the idea of Hellions running in my front, Banshees flying in the back, and then later in the game, the Hellions actually turning into Battle Hellions is a lot more interesting than just, oh, well, I went as fast as I could. Here's the drop.
Right. Yeah. And David Kim said that Hellbat's really his biggest concern is in TBT.
Which is it's so interesting.
Well, because what was it? Flash versus Innovation, where they last season, where they went the exact same Hellbat drop build.
Oh well,
they were defending Hellbat drops with Hellbat drops.
I mean, Flash versus Innovation this past week was probably one of the most disappointing matches of the season so far. It was just that.
Oh, that sucks. But yeah, I mean, David Kim didn't say this, but it sounds to me like he's worried that we're going to end up with, Wings of Liberty Pro PvP, which was 4 Gateway versus 4 Gateway.
And that's what makes this so cool. Like, the TVT decision of it is literally about being interesting to watch.
Right.
And, the fact that it's so good, why would you not do that, of course? But I mean, for entertainment value, that's boring as hell.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree entirely. And as we've been talking about for weeks, week after week now, with all of these balanced test maps and Nerfs and whatnot they've been playing, it seems that Blizzard is very, very concerned with the game being watchable now and interesting and entertaining, as well as balanced. But they're definitely it definitely seems to make them make changes faster if something is imbalanced and not fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's interesting that it took this long to do, and that's really cool. But I remember like the snipe on Ghost that got changed really quick in comparison to this, and I thought that was thrilling to watch. Absurdly overpowered, of course, when you were seeing them taking out Ultralisks and Broodlords like that.
Well, dude, I mean, they're like the Legolas of StarCraft, so why couldn't they just climb up an Ultralisk and shoot it in the brain?
That would be neat.
That'd be such a wonderful animation. Make it happen.
I look forward to those days.
What days? Where you're climbing up elephants and shooting them in the brain? What do you mean you're looking forward to?
Oh, no, just a little more personality. Like when a Marine's firing, like he goes down on one knee, or like, or little dust coming out the back of the legs of a running Ling, or like when the Lings are attacking a building, they're actually like up on it. I mean, that's what I love about the Carvot animation when he's doing the medevacs flying, and the Marines are just like rolling out of it and like falling down the side of a.
Did you see the new one with the Hellbats about Hellbat drops?
Yes.
He like drops the Hellbat and picks it back. Yeah, picks it up and just. Dude, Carvot.
Spot on.
Good job. Keep doing what you're doing. Need to have him back on. Anyways, that more or less covers it. If you honestly, seems like old news by now, even though the patch just went live. But if you want to educate yourself a little bit better, head on over to the official site, and all the information there. Of course, it's on Team Liquid as well. All the StarCraft places worth reading has it up.
Does anyone in the chat room know if they have added the graphic to it? Because I really want to see some Battle Hellions with the blue flame.
I have no idea.
I can only assume that's why they said we're doing it, and it's going to take us a few days to implement.
All right. I mean, it's just a color change. I can't imagine it'd be that hard.
That looks sweet, though. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. And I'm sure, because the whole point is you need to know if they have that upgrade or not.
Yeah.
You need that visual cue. So, anyways, there's a new StarCraft League in town, Kyle. Can you guess what it's named?
The StarCraft League?
StarCraft 2 League, sir. StarCraft 2 League.
All right.
I'm actually excited about this. The name just threw me off. In Control made a post on Team Liquid a couple days ago announcing a brand new team league here in the West, titled simply StarCraft 2 League. So he made a post. In this post, he said, they're sponsored by D-Link. They've got a increasing prize pool for every D-Link router that you buy using their code. You also get a discount, so that's cool. But what really made me excited is the fact that in this write-up, he mentions that the grand finals of this team league is going to be co-produced by DreamHack.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. Though I did geek out at the fact that their website is SC2I or SC2L.gg.
Yep. Badass.
That's awesome.
Yep. But yeah, this sounds really good. I think they've only had one day of games, and there's more games tonight. And if I have one critique, it's that their VODs aren't up quick enough, because I tried to watch them today and the VODs weren't up yet. So, but I'm really excited. They've got a bunch of good casters in rotation and controls your everyday caster, and they're going to be rotating in and out. Day 9, DJ Wheat, Artosis. So they've got a great lineup of casters and a great lineup of teams. I guess this first season, Team Liquid, Root, Mouse Sports, Acer, Axiom, EG, and Navi, along with Dignitas and Complexity competing together as a joint team, are all competing in Season 1.
Well, and they're taking a cue from the Dota 2 Compendium, which was kind of a special feature you could buy in the game for a few bucks that would add to the actual prize pool of the upcoming event. So the more D-Link routers you buy, the higher the prize pool is going to be at the end. Yeah,
I think they donate $10 to the prize pool for every router bought.
Yeah,
and that's cool. I think it's actually really good use of your sponsor, or a good way to engage people.
And it's really exciting to see new tournaments still happening. It's scary to think that WCS would be too intimidating for anyone else to try.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm stoked for this. I like team games. I'm feeling like there's not enough Western stuff going on at the moment. I feel like WCS is just like watching another Asian event. So there it is. So bring it on. This is going to be great. And also, I guess the final two teams are going to get travel and hotel stipends to compete in the Season 1 Championship. And it's going to be at DreamHack Bucharest on September 14th and 15th. So that's pretty badass.
Hey, if you're going to have a final somewhere, do it there.
Yeah, indeed. So, I don't know. Am I shallow? Am I a shallow person that I like just kind of like, this sounds cool. Oh, it's produced by DreamHack. I'm going to watch the shit out of this.
No, not at all. I mean, that's like saying, well, I don't really care that it's produced by Spielberg. Well, of course you're going to care.
Oh, chat room says that Day 9's YouTube channel has all the VODs up right now. Okay.
Oh, okay. So,
well, my mistake for checking their website for their VODs. How dare
right.
I?
Yeah, their most recent VOD is from 2 days ago, even though they said there was games since then. So
gotcha. Okay.
Looks like there's other places to find it.
Wonderful. So go check that out. The website is sc2l.gg. So I'm excited for this. I'm definitely going to watch some and report next week on my opinions.
Well, you're a big Team League fan.
I like it. It's just so... Well, I mean, my favorite is your standard GSL 1v1, round of 32 Code S format. But I love watching a good Team League every now and then. As a matter of fact, that's all I watched this week was the GSTL. And I don't know, it's just different. And I love seeing these guys that we're not used to seeing come up and take down 2 or 3 people from the opposing team.
Well, and I haven't gotten a chance to watch this, but I'm hoping the format is encompassing of that strategy, and we actually get to see the teams deciding a little bit who they're going to put in next. Because while I can't understand what the Koreans are saying when they're huddled around together, I think that's the most awesome part of those tournaments.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I'm not sure. I couldn't find anywhere. I would assume that a large portion of this is just going to be done online because of how much traveling all of these teams do.
Yeah, true.
So I'm not even as that would be wonderful. I don't know if it's even remotely possible, though. I would assume no.
Well, even if they had, like, on Skype, the team captain get on and say who they're going to put in and why, that'd be very interesting to see.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you're absolutely right. That's one of my favorite things about GSTL is the way the whole thing's set up. You've got you got both teams in the same room sitting across from each other. And I love the team shots when their guy wins. Especially if it's like bringing them back from the edge of death. If they're, if it's a best of 7, the other team's up 3, they haven't won a damn one. One kid goes up and wins one, and they just go nuts. Well,
that's why I love watching the Code S group selection, because you always get to see the coach do the lean over to the player and keep it interesting.
Yeah. So go check it out. You pointed me to this, that Kim Fan and Kevin Johnson from the Blizzard eSports community team did an AMA on Reddit this week. And then upon reading, I immediately read nothing I had never seen before.
Yeah, kind of an interesting time to do one of these. They didn't really have anything new to say. Basically, it was the usual kind of Blizzard response. That's interesting, but we're keeping an eye on it. We're in the middle of WCS. Clearly, they're not going to change anything. As you could assume, a lot of the questions were about, hey, can you fix these regions? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, nothing in here came off as particularly interesting to me.
No,
I guess the best way to put it.
But what's interesting is kind of take this while we're watching and observing and seeing what happens. And also, it was said, and they've said this in the past, but they highlighted it again. The reason why they have the regions they do is because the viewership for NA and EU. EU was a little better than NA, but it was just crap last WCS. No one was watching it.
Oh, really?
So now, by doing this new region thing, they've kind of spread out the Korean love, and there is more viewership on the different regions. Now, if you go and watch WCS today, you'll notice this exact same thing is going on, but kind of in reverse. They're like, okay, we know everyone is watching the Koreans. Let's talk about the foreigners. And they're really honing and like trying to highlight them as much as they can and kind of jazz them up. Because naturally, the Koreans who've been playing for a long time and have this kind of culture behind it, have all the backstories already. That's why they're kind of more interesting to watch.
Well,
but
and they're also really good.
Yes, but they're using WCS now to kind of build up the foreigners and tell their backstories.
Right.
And of course, and then they go, and that was really interesting. That was a good batch. That was a good batch. Well, advancing today, all Koreans. It's like, is that North America?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I've just kind of accepted it. As you know, I was kind of rallying against this pretty strongly. But right about the time that our buddy Ben from This Week in Blizz said, dude, every team in traditional sports in America is mostly dudes from other countries. Like, I was like, damn it. You're right.
Yeah. That's true.
Crap.
Yep. And hey, it's American tradition now. I mean, after World War II, NASA, just stealing people.
Yep. That's how we do it. So,
USA.
much less exciting news, got another free name change this week. This doesn't stack with previously unused name changes, so you can't just sit there. You don't have like a fat wallet full of name changes. If you haven't used it, you just lost it. And yeah, so hey, if your name is Fartmaster, you can finally rethink your life.
Right, but sadly, you can't moonlight as Fartmaster for a single day and then change it back.
It's not like Steam.
No, where you can change it anytime you get on, and I go and look at my friends list, and I go, who are these people?
That guy Charlie that we play Dota with every now and then. Every day I get on, he's got a different name on Steam. I'm just like, and he changes his picture, so I'm just like, dude, I never remember who you are. Like just pick a name, man. I know he listens. I hope he heard that, so enjoy that. Anyway, so what'd you watch this week? WCS?
A lot of WCS Korea. If I were to make some suggestions right at the top, go to the Challenger League, check out Shine versus Seed. It's not going to be the best mechanics ever. It is Challenger League after all. Mm-hmm. But these two perfectly match, had it out 100%. Check out Game 2, because this gets stupid awesome. The back and forths are so cool. And it was great to see Broodlords again, as well as countering them with Tempests.
Ooh.
Yes,
nice.
as Blizzard intended originally.
Yeah, there's a distinct lack of Broodlord in my life.
Well,
in my games that I'm watching.
They're still really good. And going Swarm Host right before it just throws everyone for a loop, because you need all that ground defense. Then, hey, suddenly Broodlord's in the air.
I'm looking through the brackets right now, and my first reaction is, oh my god, Marine King won something.
Yeah, right? Well, I mean, he's staying in. Yeah. Some of those Challenger League players are a little miffed that they're even in that league. Like watching Life this past week. He did not look pleased at all, even though he smashed and won. He was basically, I don't belong here. This is not where I am. Get me back.
Yeah, I'm in Challenger League, but I really play at more of a Premier League level. It's like everyone else in Bronze League.
And of course, we got to see the new Busong Beach level.
Oh, dude, that map. Like I said off air, I have no idea if that map is fun to play on, but it is sure as shit fun to look at.
It doesn't look good. Well, first of all, I would be so distracted by the fact that when there's like little buildings, and I mean, I remember this final down on the beach, and they have like little umbrellas set up, and there's like a 7-Eleven out in the streets. For some reason, there's also Horde and Alliance symbols on each side, so I think they went a little nuts. And there's this really weird hallway in the top. Like, I'm talking like hero mission, StarCraft campaign-sized hallway.
So like 3 blocks, and it kind of does a maze thing?
Yeah, like I would not want to be trapped with anything in this hallway.
Huh.
Maybe like 3 Hellions, sure, but anything else, like there's no way you're pushing through this. And a hidden base in the bottom, it's a silly map, but I'm looking forward to more like this. I would love to see like real life locations done.
Oh, okay. So it's based off of a actual beach somewhere?
Yeah, actually, do you remember that finals that happened at the beach for GSL? Gumiho won the team league.
Yeah, that was the freaking coolest setup.
Like, they actually built the stage and took a screenshot from those matches and put it on the screen in the map.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, they did a lot to really make it cool. And there's a little beach, and there's the water, and the Zerglings run through the water and leave little waves, and it's cool. It's cool.
We should try it. We need to go one of these nights and try and find that map and play a game on it.
Absolutely. Well, and now that it's part of the WCS Korea, we may see it on the ladder. I doubt it, though. It's
too wacky.
yeah, it's wacky, but I really want to see more things like this, and it just got me pining for some of the other tile sets. Like, remember that first level of the Hardest Form campaign? I really want a whole level that takes place in a lab.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
Yeah.
I'd be down for that. Bring it on. Make it happen, Blizzard. What are you waiting for?
Beyond that, so of course the Bomber vs. Flash games, which I talked about earlier. And if you want to see some wackiness, check out Fantasy versus Hiva.
Oh, yeah? What happened?
Well, when you're on ladder, in our ladder, like gold ladder, you screw up a rush and you go, screw it. That's what happened.
Yeah?
Yep. Like maybe 3 minutes in, the 6-pool fails and he just goes, screw it. And from then on, for some reason, Fantasy wasn't getting that Hiva was an extremely cheesy player, even though that was the first game he ever played. So Fantasy's trying to do like these really casual, like intense, long macro games. And Hiva's just like dancing around being like, oh, I can't take you in a straight game, so I'm just going to keep cheesing. And Fantasy just wasn't getting his head. So it just led to absolute stupidity.
Gotcha. Just weird worker counts, no real semblance of balance.
Yep.
Gotcha. Those are fun. Those can be fun. Well, I watched StarTale versus IM this week in the GSTL. And I gotta say, it went the full 7 games, and there was something awesome in almost every single game. There was a highlight of almost every damn game. I really enjoyed this. The first game. Tell me, Kyle, as a Zerg player, have you ever abducted zealots off of your hatchery when it's down to like 10 hit points to save it?
No, but that is awesome.
Well, it happened, and I screamed with the casters.
Ooh, that reminds me. You know what I saw this past week was abducted widow mines out of the ground so they can't go off.
I didn't know that you could do that.
Well, yeah, you can lift burrow units out, and man, those swarm hosts, they flail. They are not happy being off the ground.
Yeah, I was just noticing one of the games in the GSTL, there's a lot of Phoenix play. I'm not sure if this animation was always in the game, but when they pick up the siege tank now, and it's in siege mode, the 4 deployed legs start janking all over the place.
It's trying to stay upright. It's like, whoa, jeez. Like it's got little rockets on each foot.
Yeah, it's cool. I've never noticed it before. So if it was in the game since Wings of Liberty, just can't believe I haven't noticed it. But yeah, some great damn games. Hack a Terran for StarTale. I don't think I've ever seen this guy play before, but damn, does he have some good micro. Just go watch his game versus Ragnarok. It's good. It's very good.
I've heard of Ragnarok, but he's not ringing a bell.
Yeah, Ragnarok was the guy who did the abducts on his hatchery.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, there were 3 zealots, and he just got to it way too late, and they were about to kill it, and he just bloop, 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 and then surrounds it with lings. It's just like, oh my god, I can't believe he saved the hatchery. And it stayed up, I think, for the rest of the game.
I'm really looking forward to where this game's going. We're seeing things missing right now in tournaments. One of the biggest things that's definitely noticeable is when Protoss players, high-end Protoss players, lose their mothership core. They completely forget to rebuild it. But
yeah,
eventually, people are going to be on top of that thing. And Protoss is going to be warping out every time they get surrounded by Zerg. And that's going to be so cool. And then the Viper play happening like this.
Yeah. I want to see more Viper, because every time Vipers get on the map, it is very, very fun to watch. I'm trying to think of some of the other good stuff from the GSTL I watched. Bomber versus First, it was just freaking intense. Very good macro game. When it got down to the end, Bomber had First, up in his base, and he was getting all these great storms on Bomber's army, and there was one High Templar left on the high ground in his main, and freaking Bomber had this one ghost by itself he's constantly microing it in and out of this medevac. It was like the Black Ops ghost that was on the mission to kill this one High Templar that had energy left, and he did, and that was it. Once that Templar was dead, the game was over. It was awesome. So that and Bomber did some cool stuff. The final game was between Bomber versus MC, and this is where I saw you were saying you hadn't seen oracles lately, Kyle.
Oh, were there a few?
Yeah, MC opened with an oracle.
Well, of course MC did.
Bomber did this beautiful marine fake out. Like he set a trap, and MC walked right into it. MC goes to his natural expansion with the oracle, goes to attack it. He had like, I don't know, 8 marines. He sent 3 to the natural, and then he took the other 5 and put them on the other side of the destructible rocks, assuming that's where MC would retreat to, and he did, and he caught the oracle, and he did it 2 times.
Damn.
It was awesome. I'm just like, dear God, this is, that's the kind of shit that really, separates the pros from, well, me.
Well, that reminded me of the example of why Innovation versus Flash was pretty silly. And in the first game, Proxy 2 barracks versus Proxy 1 barracks.
Really?
Yep.
That's bizarre.
No one had a good time.
It sounds so silly. I want to watch it now. So
yeah, sure.
I'm probably gonna look that up after this. Oh, anyways, that's that. Go, make sure you keep up on the WCS. I loved GSTL to death this week, so I'm glad I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna pick up the ticket. There's so much other stuff to watch. I was like, but you know what? I'm really jonesing for a team league, and I'm glad I picked the ticket up. So it was a good watch. So.
Well, and I'm sure it's refreshing to see GSL doing their thing after all the piggyback problems they've been having.
I'm so done with that. That is turning into, because I've gotten over the fact that all the leagues are Korean dominated in the WCS. Now my big gripe is that I just want GOM to do everything.
Well, and they're dropping a lot of games and having tech issues, and then multiple people have paused the beginning of the game because the actual studio lights are shooting in through the front window and blinding the players.
Oh, wow. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And maybe you can say, okay, Flash might be a little picky. I mean, he's the guy who gets out a ruler in order to position his keyboard. But other players have been pausing this as well.
Yeah. Obviously, that's absurd. That shouldn't be a problem. So, anyways, that's pretty much the news that you guys that we missed over the 2 weeks that we were gone. So that brings us to our interview with JoRoSaR, Sargent. So I don't know. There's really not too much to preface this. He was an awesome guest. He was just about to go cast right after we recorded this. So.
But I do want to mention before we get into it that we do have a lot of emails, and we'll be getting to those next week. So if you send us emails over the holiday break, we saw them, we got them. We can't wait to get to them next week.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have the guests next week, so we're going to add a lot of community stuff in. So, and if you want us, we'll take more. Send them to starcastshow@gmail.com. We love hearing from you guys. And feel, MP3 attachments are good too. Hell, we do a live show now, so you could even do video. Surprise us. Go nuts. Just keep them short and to the point. And well produced, and don't drop like the F-bomb or whatever. So, yeah. Anyways, without further ado, here's our interview with JoRoSaR Sargent. Enjoy, and welcome back, everyone. I'm sure I just introduced myself from the future, so thank you, future Garrett. We are joined here today for the very first time by a special guest, caster John, better known as JoRoSaR. Am I pronouncing that right?
Pretty close. I normally go by JoRoSaR, but that's one of the better versions I've heard, definitely.
Gotcha. Okay, so
JoRoSaR is a pretty popular one as well.
Gotcha. Misplaced syllable emphasis. Gotcha. Cool. Well, welcome to the show, John. We've been. It's funny. You I guess you're friends with the owner of SC2 Quote of the Day, and he introduced us, and we've been trying to schedule this forever.
So it has been a while, yeah. Time zones and stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're such a pain. It's hysterical. We've had a lot of Fnatic players on the show, which has led to many weekend early morning records for us. So we're used to it.
I feel your pain.
Yeah. So welcome, man. So at the time of this recording, we're waiting we're pretty much taking up all your time just before you go into cast IEM.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be really, really entertaining. It's the IEM qualifier for Shanghai, and it's basically a bracket of 16 ridiculously strong players. 1632, pardon me, I believe. And that's going to be going live for me in about an hour and 45 minutes from now for 2 spots, I believe, in the main event. And it's ridiculously stacked bracket. It's not one of those sort of open brackets where you're casting a couple of hours where you expect certain players to go through. It's going to be knife-edged matches from kind of the get-go, so I'm really looking forward to it later today.
Yeah, anyone here in the States who've been watching MLG over the weekend and wondering where some of the bigger name European players are, this is the answer to that question. I mean, looking at this round of 16 bracket, it is definitely full of some serious talent.
That's right, it is 16, yeah. It's there's a lot of matches to choose from. I don't actually know at this time sort of which matches we're going to be casting first. I've put in my recommendations, and we'll see if we get them. Of course, it all depends on sort of who's there at what time and what happens when the broadcast starts. But I have a couple of ideas of who I think we might be able to see in the Final Four. But it's close enough that it's not the kind of thing you'd want to be betting the mortgage on at this point.
Okay, I got you.
Well, we got Bling, Grubby, Red, but is there any names here that just like have surprised you or you think people need to know about?
Oh, well, I'm really looking forward to seeing Fuser's always a name that is synonymous with cheese. And the fact that he's put up against Grubby in the round of 16 is kind of like a lot of people are looking at that going, ooh. But at the same time, I'm thinking if he wants to break out of the style that people typically see him for, and we see some longer macro games where he can go toe-to-toe with ridiculously good players, and I know he can do that from time to time, it's basically an acid test for him. So I'm really looking forward to that. Strelok has had a lot of success recently, and he's really sort of shining through with his mech style. He's got Slivko in round 1, and then the winner of Sort of and Bling in the quarterfinals, so he's going to be one to watch out for. And I'm really interested to see how Revenge ends up doing in the top half of the bracket against Baby Knight as well. To be perfectly honest, I expect Baby Knight to win that. But at the same time, I think this is going to be a really nice platform for Revenge to maybe give us a taste of just how good he can be, because we haven't really seen him in the absolutely massive events to date. So just from looking at the brackets initially, those are kind of the matches I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Well, it's a pretty tough bet to go against Baby Knight anytime, but that's pretty funny about Fuser. It's like, it's my play style, guys. I know he's a fan favorite. Just let me do my thing. It's like, no.
Hashtag Rex. It's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Oh, the double Raxes have been getting some heat lately, especially.
They've been flowing.
Poor, we saw Teja knock out TLO in 2 different tournaments now. And the hate, the fiery rage around the 2 racks is just, it's rough. I don't know. I play Terran mostly, so I let it slide.
Well, it's one of those things where a player like TLO would be a great example. I can only imagine he loses to a 2 racks and then goes on to say, well, it's a viable strategy in the game, and it's the kind of thing that people have to be scouting for, and if you miss it, it's liable to take you out, and there's no point feeling mad about it because everyone knows it's there. It's just something that people can flick out, from time to time. We saw, for example, in MLG, a lot of talk surrounding bubbles at the moment, and Coach Park cannon rushing. That was that was brilliant.
Yeah.
So it's the kind of thing you can just flick out from time to time, man, and that's what's so great about StarCraft. It's not like once you get to a certain level, it's basically 20 minutes no rush and everyone does their own macro thing. Of course not. If you're aggressive from the get-go, you better make sure you're prepared for that kind of thing. Otherwise, it's really easy to catch someone out. If you tell me I can go 1-0 up in a best of 3 inside of 6 minutes without thinking very much, I'm going to do it. So it's no, I have no problem with it whatsoever.
It was funny to see how much that changed, though, with the recent Korean WCS Best of Ones. Have you gotten to watch any of that?
I've gotten to watch some.
Brutal.
the level of nerves in those is just ramped up to over 9,000. It's been incredible. But at the same time, because some people are playing quite safe in the Best of Ones as well, it's really interesting to see that sort of change in mentality between hyper-aggressive and just playing safe macro. It sort of lent itself to really short, unbelievably exciting games. And on the flip side, we see really good macro games as well. So it's really just an accelerant, if anything else. I'm enjoying it. I can see why the players might not, because it's not always the case that the two strongest players make out of a group, for example. It becomes just a little bit more random, a bit more volatile. But certainly for the viewers, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just last week, Kyle, you were laughing because you were just like, ZVZ, it's so odd to not see a Zergling for the first, 7 minutes.
It's the best thing ever. Swarm host for Swarm host, man. I haven't gotten to see it before.
Is it as exciting as Broodlords versus Broodlords?
It at least makes sense.
Okay.
Something's happening.
That's true.
What was that? Was that the final GSL finals of Wings of Liberty where we got that? Yeah,
Yep.
was... I remember, because Kyle made me eat my hat because I was talking so much smack. I was like... Because that was when Zerg was dominating, and I was just like, all I want for the GSL finals is not to have ZVZ. And we get it, and then Kyle calls me up and was like, dude... We got Broodlord versus Broodlord. It was pretty awesome.
One infester happens to wander under it, and then, hell ensues because Broodling comes down, then those Broodling just Broodlings versus Broodlings.
Yeah, it was a pretty silly fight, I'm not going to lie. Although I have to say, Tastos did an amazing job at making it sound like the most exciting thing in the universe for what seemed like about 4 hours in a row. Those guys are amazing. They can cast paint dry. They're good.
They really could. See, there we go, Kyle. That Discovery show I can't stand how it's made. They should do that show, and maybe I'll enjoy it. It's like, here we see how bottles are kept. It's a running joke on the show. I don't know how we always get on the subject of that show, but
if there was any magic left in how bottles were made, they took it away.
Yeah. So, well, very cool. So we're talking about the present. Let's go way back. The question we ask almost every guest we ever have, if it's their first time on the show, is how did you get into gaming? I mean, you grew up in Hong Kong, correct?
I did, yeah. And, wow, that is quite a long time ago. So I'd have to say that sort of growing up in Hong Kong through high school, secondary school, however you want to call it, I'm very interchangeable between British and American, so if something I say sounds a bit out of whack, just let me know. But it's Counter-Strike was ridiculously popular, and this was an age where Hong Kong is a very, very concentrated group of people, okay? So it's basically like, it's not quite shoving 7 million people into Manhattan, but it's pretty close. And as a result, when the sort of gaming really took off in terms of popularity, it would be normal to see LAN centers, net cafes, with 300 or 400 computers just pop up. And we're talking like every couple of blocks in the center of town. And there would be people who'd go in, not like sort of playing, not playing 48 hours in a row, neglecting a family quite level of dedication there, but it became like a normal after-school activity. It's like a normal place to chill out for 4 or 5 hours when you finish with work, when you're done with school and stuff like that. And gaming culture, I mean, you could argue it definitely took off a bit before then as well, but that was what really brought people together in real life to play and game together. And Counter-Strike became very, very popular because back then we had this thing called LAN, and it was amazing. So I played Counter-Strike, I'd say semi-competitively throughout my time in Hong Kong. At one point, I think, a very long time ago, I think maybe the team I was on came third in a WCG qualifier, but because Hong Kong's such a small region, only the winner got to go. And amusingly, I think the eventual winners included some people from my class in secondary school. So it was a very tight-knit community. It was quite competitive, and everyone really started enjoying their game. And once average broadband speeds, of all things, started bumping it up, LAN centers became less and less popular. And sort of in the early 2000s, a lot of that just started, even late 90s, a lot of that just started going away, which I think is a real shame because there's a really nice social focal point for people, despite what people might say about, well, yeah, you guys all just go to this place and you end up on computers and you don't really talk to each other. That, in my experience, that hasn't been true. People have gone out for like drinks and food before and afterwards. We'd be chatting to each other during, meeting new people, and I've always found it a really, really big part of growing up, and I do miss that quite a lot. But that kind of evolved. I came to London for university, where I am now, and I've been here for the last 9 years. And sort of in that period, in terms of competitive gaming, I didn't really do very much. interestingly, I was one of the first people on Diablo 2 to sell items for cash. So if anyone's raging over the auction house in D3, that's partly my fault.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I'm gonna get on a plane after this. I'm coming out there. I'm gonna find you.
And I'll sell you a Wind Force, and it'll all be okay.
You're right. I'm that easy to buy out. So
exactly.
All right.
So if you were on US East or US West hardcore ladder, chances are a lot of that was my territory for a little while. That was good fun because it was basically pocket money through uni, and I really enjoyed that. And I took a very large number of twists and turns throughout and coming out of uni that have nothing to do with gaming. Which I suspect, based on the conversations we had beforehand, you're going to ask me about later. But I then started playing Warcraft 3 and Dota 2. Not Dota 2, sorry, the original Dota. Quite a lot once the Frozen Throne came out.
Oh, you and Kyle would be best friends.
I was always a decent player at Warcraft 3. But I was never a super competitive player because at the time I was still making a bit from Diablo and I was sort of playing Warcraft 3 on the side. It was kind of like my strategy game of choice to replace the Age of Empires and the original Red Alert that I was playing while growing up, which is awesome, by the way, because as long as both of you had the same rules.ini file, you could mess around with it and make dogs kill mammoth tanks and all sorts of cool shit. So I'm highly reminiscent of those days. It was good fun. But Warcraft 3 was like my RTS of choice to replace that. And I was good, but I wasn't super good. And then sort of after Frozen Throne came out, I played for a bit, but then really got into Dota for a very long time.
Gotcha. So was Warcraft... did you play Diablo? You played Diablo before Warcraft?
I played Diablo. Yes, I played Diablo before Warcraft.
Okay.
So I didn't play... So I haven't played Warcraft 1, like the original Warcraft, and I haven't played the original StarCraft, which might cause a couple of people to rage out there. So I kind of like hopped between games quite a lot as I was growing up. But
I can't judge. I played the original StarCraft, but I was terrible at it. It was nothing but the campaign and best map ever. So
yeah, I've tried it now, and it's like it's just such a different animal to what RTS games are like these days. It really was a different experience back then. You could see what people said about like skill ceilings being ridiculously high back before the days of decent AI, back before, where you could actually group a large number of units onto a hotkey and things like that. Yeah. Things we take for granted now were so difficult back then. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if StarCraft 2 was your first kind of foray into StarCraft, I can't imagine what it must have been like going back to Brood War.
I haven't played too much of it, but I remember just even up there for 5 minutes, I'm just sat there going, people played this? Yeah. And people were good at it? I know. It's really great watching people play, though, because you get that perspective of just how difficult it actually is and how difficult things used to be for all these guys as well. So it's amazing.
Yeah, StarCraft 2 definitely has this built-in illusion that you can be as good, because they have these slight moments where you're like, man, that looked like a pro game, sort of, if I ignore everything that happened up to that point of me screwing up my macro and micro.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But that's also one of the great things about StarCraft 2 that's made it very, very accessible to a wider audience as well, and that's one of the things that I think they've done very, very well. Anyone can pick up the game and go, hey, I can actually do these cool moves that make it, that look really, really pro. I can actually go into this replay and watch it and go, look, I did that! That's amazing! That won me the game! And it's moments like that that really add to your gaming experience as well. So I'm really glad that, in a way, that's kind of branched out across all levels of play. I definitely don't think that's a bad thing at all.
That's something we've talked about on the show a few times, about what makes eSports, what kind of sets it apart from traditional sports and with StarCraft and any other video game. It's like if you watch a pro game, you can then go play on that exact map with those exact units. It's not something. It's not like I can watch the Giants play football and I can't go play a game on Giant Stadium. That's not going to happen. So it'd
be an expensive trip out there.
Yeah,
but from what I understand about American football, all you'd have to do is get out there, like strap some cushions to your shoulders, run for 10 seconds, and then pause for a very long commercial break, and that's more or less most of the game, right?
Yeah. I'm not going to deny that.
That's good fun, and Dota kind of led me into StarCraft 2. Was recommended it by a lot of people when, of course, it was originally announced that it was coming out. And I picked up the game on the first day of release and thought, okay, I'm going to give this a shot, and just started playing. You know, I was competitive with myself, of course, but I was basically playing casually up until, I'd say about really November of 2011. I'm going to get this right. And by that point, I was relatively into the game. I knew about the community on Team Liquid and stuff like that. I was watching a couple of streams, and I genuinely forget who, so don't quiz me on that. I'm not even dodging the question. I actually don't remember. But I remember watching a couple of videos of some really good players playing back then on YouTube. And I just remember thinking to myself, the guys who were commentating this, I could do a better job. And that wasn't me being big-headed. That was me just thinking what I was watching was bad at the time. I had absolutely no clue, right?
No, I mean that's how every single entrepreneurial adventure begins.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. This podcast, I was like, oh, StarCraft's coming out. Let me see if there's any podcasts. And it was like 2, and it was just like some dude in his bathroom with too much echo on a.
I might be in my
headset.
bathroom. You can't tell. Nobody knows.
But you sound amazing because you have a good mic. You're not coming through on like the old stick mics, the desk mic that everyone's first desk mic.
Oh God, I remember those. Those were amazing. They were like standard issue with 56K modems, right?
Exactly. I used to pick it up and pretend I was hosting like The Price is Right or something.
Luckily, they're making a comeback now. 56K modems. They're calling it dubstep, but I know what it really is. So. Definitely be on the lookout for that. That's apparently that's going to be big at some point soon. But yeah, I am very thankful for the equipment we've got. I'm actually wearing for the first time today. I was talking to you guys about it before the show started. These are Planetronix Game Commander headset. Ridiculous stuff. As of basically very recently, I'm being sponsored by Planetronix now. They sent me over this headset to try. And so far, I've got no complaints. I love the built-in mic on it as well. You can hear the quality on it. It's pretty good.
Sounds great. I like the keyword
I hate
there
using
is...
headsets.
Really?
I actually hate using headsets because short of spending unbelievable amounts of money on one or having a separate sound mixer guy dealing with all the problems it would raise for you, you just don't get decent quality of sound. So it's actually quite refreshing to be wearing a headset where the sound quality just, even just on an online podcast, like it sounds good. This isn't some amazing studio setup where I've gone to a live event and there's, a team of people sorting out the sound stuff for me. This is just me from home, and it's actually sounding good.
Yeah.
So that's actually one of the biggest pluses I have.
I could geek out about that. I respect it so much because you watch a lot of shows about esports or anyone on Twitch, and it just seems like everyone just has whatever their gaming headset and using that as a mic. So anytime I see someone with even a remotely decent mic setup, like our last guest, DJ Wheat, I'm so stoked whenever he does anything. He has a wonderful microphone setup in his home. It's like,
I can imagine, man.
Yeah. So
yeah, that room looks immense.
Yeah, exactly. So it's fun. Yeah, and Planetronix, they make good stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Few headsets from them. The more like lower end, normal standard gaming headsets, but yeah.
Well, previously, go on, Cal.
This is probably an experience that a lot of people have had in the past, and they see videos and they, man, maybe I can do that, and maybe they take the time, maybe they don't, but what made you actually sit down? Where did you post your first cast, your first video that got you through the door? Okay,
so this is a very strange sequence of events, but as someone who's a bit of an entrepreneur, I kind of believe that strange sequences of events aren't coincidences. I'll try my best to make this sound logical. So after I heard that and thought, maybe I can give it a go myself, I happened to own a decent USB microphone at the time. It was, I'm trying to remember, I think it was an SE USB 2200A, which might ring the bells of like someone who's amazingly geeky and techie in that way. But basically, a very long time ago, I played the piano to a pretty good standard and was a baritone soloist in a choir. And I had a microphone ready, like a really good microphone already at home, because I was eventually going to start recording my own music. And I think I still have that microphone here today. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere, basically. So my background's actually in classical music, and I had the mic there, and I thought, well, how hard can this actually be? Which was a pretty bad question to ask myself at the time. Downloaded a replay pack or two, went through a couple of games, and posted them to YouTube with the help of Duckville, Australian caster who helped me a lot with initially Sony Vegas, and then Premiere Pro as well. I used a couple of bits of software to try and splice together my first couple of videos. And I stuck those up on YouTube. And around this time, I was also almost religiously watching the GSL and GSTL. And this was back when FXO, I want to say the old FXO, all the foreigners were in Korea as well. This was back when QXE all killed IM.
Oh, yeah.
So it was quite a long time ago. Oh, man, that was good.
Those early days, yeah.
The Kamehameha GIF is still on my computer somewhere. It's amazing.
It should be. It should be on everyone's.
And I forget how, but I remember briefly chatting to him on Skype. And I was a massive fan of his back then, and to be honest, I still am today. And that was the time when he first announced his match with Cats, where they played, and back then this was like crazy, even though now it's like a thing to play it, I don't know, every couple of weeks you see a different one. They played a best of 31. And I thought, hey, can I try my hand at casting this? And for various reasons, there are actually a couple of things that happened that meant I was this close to not being able to do it, but they basically let me do it last minute. The cast itself, I'm not going to lie, like if I don't actually want to look back on it now because it would be rubbish, but it was rubbish. But it was so much fun, and I regret it so much because it was 9.5 hours of me casting 2 Raxes and proxy hatches, like almost non-stop. It was tough. I think there were like 400 people watching, and at that point my mind was blown. I was like, oh my god, people are watching me, I need to keep talking about these guys. And I was probably delirious by 4 or 5 hours in. I don't even remember what happened. I think QXE won comfortably in the end, something like 16-6, but this was a very long time ago now. So I did that, and I was really happy. And because I had no idea how to edit video, and the highlight system on Twitch back then was interesting to say the least, I just about finished splicing the videos together and uploaded them to my YouTube channel like a week after it happened, despite spending several hours a day on it. And then this was back in the day where, I don't know if you're familiar with Playhem. They were doing sort of daily $75 tournaments on both the North American and European servers. And they were looking for new European casters. And I think I approached them and said, hey guys, so I did this recently. I'm interested in maybe doing a bit of casting. Is there anything you guys, might there be a position? And I had my first cast with Playhem on Boxing Day, 2011. I was casting with Lillian. It was a European Playhem daily. And that turned into a regular thing where for the next 2 to 3 months, maybe even 4 months, I was casting between 2 and 3 times a week. So I began to build a small following in EU, and more importantly, I began to actually learn what it was to have the mental stamina to be able to cast an entire tournament in a single evening. Because I think the biggest thing I learned initially was that I was a singer beforehand. Like, my lung capacity is fine. I can technically talk hours on end and still be okay. But the difficult thing with casting is you have to be talking hours on end, and you have to still know what you're talking about at the end of it, and it's staying switched on mentally for that length of time. That's a massive barrier to people who are starting up in casting, and on bad days, like even the best of us, like really, really struggle with those long days. So that's something I sort of picked up and learned pretty quickly, and I was pretty happy about that. And then this is where I kind of, on my own, if you like, took the next step a little bit. Some of the Playhem casters were heading to MLG Anaheim in 2012 to do the community streams there. and my mother happened to be in the States on a business trip, I think 2 weeks before Anaheim, and we were going to have like a little family holiday on the West Coast. And I said, Mom, I'd love to come join you on the West Coast, but do you think you could do me a favor and maybe postpone my ticket back to London, say 2 weeks or so? And of course that happened, and that meant I got to go to Anaheim, and thanks to a couple of mates there, especially like big hats off to Frodan for sorting a lot of that out for me as well. I got to do the community stream, and it was kind of like, it was very back room. There were no webcams. We were all running around with XSplit. There wasn't a production crew, but it was a really good experience actually being live at an event, and it was the first time I got to meet a lot of the North American personalities as well. I don't have it ready now and don't really want to interrupt your podcast halfway through, so you just have to take my word for it, but I have a massive MLG mouse mat that I got at Anaheim.
I remember they're table mats. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
you could eat.
They
off
are.
them.
No, they really are. I think I posted a photo of it on my blog at some point. But I have a. It was one of the mouse mats that we actually used to observe on the community streams, and I got it signed by every main stage caster that was there at MLG. So I wasn't going after the players or anything like that. I got Tastosis. I'm going to miss someone out now, which is why I didn't want to do this, but like Husky, Total Biscuit, Rob Simpson was there, and they were like, basically there were 10 or 12 signatures on this mouse mat, and I still have it, and it was like my motivation, if you like, to keep improving myself and keep learning more as a commentator. Not because I'm trying to be ridiculously successful in the business, but because I was really passionate about it, and I wanted to make sure that what I put out there was as much of a quality product as possible. So that was really cool. And the week after that, I did the Gigabyte eSports LAN as well, which was great. I got to meet a couple of people I cast with as well, and we were on camera there. And it was sort of almost like a tightly run community event. And yeah, there were some controversies relating to the tournament and stuff like that afterwards. But just speaking about the tournament while I was there, it felt like a family was trying to run the tournament. Everyone was running around, trying to get stuff done. The casters were constantly rotating on and off stage, saying hi to the players, saying hi to the... It basically felt like more of a convention than a tournament, if you like, where everyone was kind of mingling with everyone else. And that was a really good experience. And off the back of that, when I came back to the UK, this is now early June 2012, I got a call up to go to EPS Berlin a little bit later on, I think in August or September. So I cast there for ESL with Calaris and Icicle, and off the back of that, you can see how it's kind of like a domino effect here.
Yeah.
I got asked back to first do an IEM event, which was a lot of fun as well, heading out to Singapore. And that, I believe, was the first time I cast with Artosis, which was absolutely amazing. Dan is like the most positive, fantastic guy in the universe. And
It's like getting to play a song with Paul McCartney or something. That's
yeah,
that's insane.
I guess. Yeah,
As far as
playing with the
casting is
Rolling
concerned, I
Stones.
guess.
Exactly. And I did a DreamHack Bucharest as well, which was really, really good fun. If incredibly tiring, DreamHack tournaments are like definitely the place to be if you like partying. And then, of course, WCS Continental Finals in Shanghai. So towards the end of 2012, it's kind of like everything just started to come together. I was flying every other week, and I really, really enjoyed it. IPL 5 as well. I also went out on the same Anaheim trip, I think. I might have skipped past this a bit, my bad. I went out 3 days early as well to visit the former IPL office in San Francisco, and did an IPL Fight Club and a Team Arena Challenge as well with Doer and Kevin Nocky. So that was all good fun as well. And you can see how the one thing I really would want someone to take away from this is how, yes, you could argue there's an element of luck in it, but it's really about taking that extra step and trying to put things together. So I had a family vacation over on the West Coast, and I thought, well, can I sort of insert a little bit of esports either side of it to try and make something happen as well without buying an extra plane ticket? And I was able to do that. Or coming back, spotting an opportunity and being like, well, hang on a second, maybe I could fly directly from here to here and try and do 2 events instead of 1. It's just the little tweaks, like the very small sacrifices you have to make, if you like, in addition to what's already there, that really sort of pushes you on to the next level, I think. And I believe that that's what got me a lot of the opportunities that I had towards the end of last year. And now, I don't know how true it is, but like an IEM event, IPL, MLG, DreamHack, I think, I could be wrong, I'm definitely the only part-time caster, because I don't cast full-time, and possibly the first StarCraft 2 caster to have done the entire circuit of all of those events. And since then, one or two other casters have done it. But it's...
That's an impressive story.
Yeah.
It's a whirlwind. Like, the second half of 2012 was ridiculous, but really it's sort of the 6 months previous to that and a bit into 2011 that was kind of slowly setting that up, if you see what I mean.
Well, you can really feel it in your voice when you're talking about, like, 2012 June. Well, that's a year ago, but you're talking about, like, it was 10 years ago, the way it feels.
It does feel like that sometimes. Like, eSports is still a very, very new industry. Yes, okay, as a concept, it's been around for a while, but when I say new, I mean it's starting to become more mainstream now. We're seeing some tournaments being broadcast on local television, for example. It's becoming more accepted as a culture in pretty much all corners of the globe, and the next couple of years are really going to be defining, because it's going to cease being a niche little thing, and it's going to become, I think, something that's going to start hopefully competing with a lot of even mainstream television. I can see that on the horizon and things like that as well. So it's a really big transition period, and it feels really good to have been a part of that. And I think like now is definitely the time.
Well, clearly you had the initiative, the forethought to see these things on the horizon, but the scope of esports has changed so much over the past 2 years. What would you recommend to someone who's just seeing YouTube videos thinking, man, I could do this better? And there's not the, I'm sure in the MLG backroom, it's no longer XSplit and community casters. Like, how would someone nowadays get their foot in the door?
That's a question to which I want to say the answer is constantly evolving over time. But I think there are a couple of things that people can do that are just going to be universally true no matter what they want to do. The first is never put all your eggs in one basket. At the end of the day, esports is currently growing, yes, but at the same time, the number of people who are trying their hand at casting and at playing are constantly growing as well. If you aspire to be a professional player, definitely go ahead and do it. Just remember, you're not going to be tip-top GM being invited to tournaments on 2 weeks' worth of training. Or if you are, please contact me. I'm available as an agent. There's all sorts of like little things you can do. I would say if someone was getting into casting, definitely start off with YouTube channel. There is absolutely no harm whatsoever in putting up a couple of your casts on YouTube. For starters, even if no one ends up watching them, and there'll always be a few people checking the stuff out, especially if you have some good players, you happen to be casting from a replay pack or stuff like that, it's very, very useful to have those videos as a reference for if you ever wanted to cast elsewhere and someone asks you the question, well, what have you done? What is it like being you while you're casting? What can our audience expect to hear and expect to see? That's always a very good starting point. And despite the prominence now of so many big tournaments, especially WCS, effectively taking over the lives of everyone across the globe because something different is happening every day, there are still a lot of smaller cups littered about, like community-run tournaments that are happening almost on a daily basis. Go for SE2 is possibly one of the more well-known examples now of smaller scale tournaments that are happening regularly, and those are the kind of places where someone with a lot of ambition or someone who wants to improve their casting or prove themselves in general would be able to go and say, hey guys, I'd like to try my hand at casting some of your stuff. Do you think this would be okay? And I think people might be put off a little bit by how the barriers to getting into casting seem like they're so high when you switch on the stream and, oh, hey, there's Tasteosis in Korea, or hey, there's Apollo flown out to some exotic location around the globe to cast a tournament there, and you're thinking, well, how can I get from here to there? That's just impossible. Why even bother? Everyone started off somewhere, even the biggest names, and I think that knowing that that's not actually your goal, that's just a bonus that happens once you get good at what you do, is a very important step to take. Focus on being the best you can be, and then either people will notice, or they might not notice, and you might not get appreciated, which, for the record, I think happens a lot less. But you'd still be out there producing quality stuff, which is the absolute most important thing. So I would recommend definitely going towards the smaller tournaments, trying to pick up casts here and there, do a couple of evenings a week, and that's really a great place to build followings as well. Back when I did Playhem, for example, I actually brought a bad habit, if you like, into main stage casting, in that I was always looking at the chat and always looking at what Team Liquid was saying about my casting, because back when I did Playhem, it was a very intimate audience of 200 or 300 people constantly tuning in night after night, and they were always actually giving really, really good constructive feedback on the casters and being like, hey, maybe you should try this next game, or you might have missed this here or there, but it was like, it was in a really friendly, really positive way.
Yeah.
And then
So that kind of thing really helped me like improve very quickly. And of course, once I started getting flown out to gigs and stuff, that was the point where I had to remind myself, better not look at that until after the weekend, because as you guys know, Twitch chat can be a bit chaotic.
I can imagine with that mindset. And here's my encouragement: turn to screen 2, and oh no, that didn't work out.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah,
But-
most tournaments, like we've been watching MLG over the weekend, I just shut chat off. It's such noise at this point. It's ridiculous.
It's, I think once you sort of, I mean, there are certain streams that seem to encourage interesting illicit behavior in chat compared to others, shall we say?
No,
But-
what are you talking about?
It does also, I also find it tends to be a function of the number of people watching as well. Like, a group of a couple of hundred people who are quite sensible are very, very quick to shut down this kind of behavior in chat. And when someone comes in and does something stupid, they don't find it funny. And they're actually trying to watch and trying to have a good time.
Right.
And once you sort of get past a certain threshold of volume, it becomes a bit unruly no matter how well-behaved the chat is.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't remember the last time I saw 50,000 well-behaved people in a Twitch chat. It just doesn't happen. But it's really useful for when you're up and coming as a caster. And when you are actually broadcasting to streams, maybe with fewer viewers, but you will notice that there are the same names that are popping up now and again, and they're actually the ones that will be able to give you a lot of the good advice as a community caster to sort of up your game until you're at a level where it feels like you're ready to be on camera on a stage somewhere and broadcasting to tens of thousands of people. I think that's a very important step to take, and I hope that people view that as a goal in itself rather than a stepping stone, because I think those tournaments are really where the bedrock of our community is, and I don't want people to see that as, oh, this is my ticket to DreamHack, this is my ticket to MLG, this is my ticket to IEM. I just don't think that's true. I think it's a goal in and itself, and anything else that comes along is a bonus. So that would be the one biggest piece of advice I could give.
Now, you've probably been an inspiration to a lot of people because you didn't start as a pro player and now you're casting. Has that been tough for you? I mean, is that something that, like, behind the scenes, people scoff at what you have to say, or?
To an extent. I mean, on the one hand, you're right, I haven't come from being a pro player. I do play StarCraft 2 to a decent level, but of course not to a pro player kind of level. But then you sort of take a look, I mean, the best way to explain it really is that if you actually take a look at chats, you take a look at Reddit, take a look at Team Liquid, for example, there will always be the odd person who might come along and say, actually, what Artosis and Apollo are saying about this situation is completely bollocks. They're going to do this instead. I can't believe they hired these guys. Their analysis is horrible. And I sort of sat there thinking to myself, well, if there are people who are saying this about people who are that good at their analysis and their casting and who are pro players themselves, yeah, okay, they shouldn't be taking that seriously. But then again, neither should I. Because inevitably, play-by-play casters always get a lot more stick than analytical casters as a general rule. There might be a couple of borderline exceptions to that, but to be perfectly frank, there are very few. And I think that the best advice I've ever received as a caster is definitely from fellow casters, whether they're play-by-play casters or analytical casters themselves. Once you start building a following and an audience, there will always, for reasons that will remain unknown to me until the death of time, be people who follow you around wanting to hate on like stuff you do or nitpick at the wrong stuff that you say. And you can have a day where everything's going brilliantly and 99% of everything that's happened has been pure gold, and that 1% or that one slip up really kind of just drags down your entire day. And that, of course, is the one thing that people don't stop talking about for a little while after it happens. And that's kind of normal, I want to say, in the life of a caster. It's a question of whether, you know, some people do it more often than others, or how quickly you're able to act to rectify the situation. People don't necessarily see how difficult the conditions are when you're off camera, for example. If you're at a tournament, they don't know what's happening either side. A great example, if you're up and coming and doing online cups or something like that, would be they don't know if you're observing the game, trying to solo cast the game at the same time, trying to deal with a sound issue, and maybe someone in chat has actually said something really important, like you need to be checking something on XSplit, or there's actually an issue with the stream, and you're trying to do all of these things at the same time. What I'm trying to get at is a lot of things are very circumstantial, and it's very easy to take in a lot of feedback that people are giving you and just sort of lump it into one negative or positive, I suppose, ball, because neither of them are particularly helpful to casting. What's a lot better is if you can pick out the genuine gems of feedback you get that you can work to improve on in normal circumstances. So a lot of the stuff you're going to hear are from people who said, this call was horrible, or the quality of the stream today was rubbish, or what was up with the sound. And if you were doing 5 or 6 things at once, it's not something you can center in on and try and deal with for the next time, because it was such a weird situation where everything was going wrong. You need to be able to learn to cast that aside and work on the things that you can genuinely improve on, which is why I think that receiving advice from fellow casters is so important. It's not because the opinions of the fans don't matter. It's not because that the viewers don't know what they're talking about. Quite often, some of them might be right on the money. But what casters do know is the number of other things you were trying to juggle at the time, what the conditions were like, and what you can genuinely improve on, like, completely irrespective of those conditions. And focusing on those, I think, helps you to become a better commentator a lot faster than just listening to chat, for an example, would. So I think that's very important as well for someone who's just starting to gain a following.
Man, it's amazing how fast this has moved. I mean, I remember when StarCraft 2 came out, like, oh my goodness, I can watch this game live and observe it, and just the expectations that have exploded over 3 years. And now Absolutely. We're like, damn it, I want TV quality streamed on my computer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know me, Kyle. We got the new in-game UI, and I was just like, this one's ugly. Why are they using this? and I have to step back and be like, I'm watching StarCraft. It's cool. But yeah, everyone does it. It's funny because the negative and positive feedback. This is definitely something that I think anyone who is just a content creator in any form that puts themselves out there on the internet has to deal with. So it's interesting to always hear from. Cause we were just talking about this on last week's episode. I don't even remember how it came up, Kyle, but the differences of personalities in StarCraft and whatever else you might be interested in that takes place on the web. Certain people are like, oh yeah, I read everything anyone ever writes about me, and then you have those people who are like, I am in a bubble, I don't want to read it, it will ruin my day. So it's interesting to see that. So do you do kind of both, like?
I started off as the former and ended up as the latter, if that makes sense. I think.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I think that transition from listening to everything everyone has to say and then being in your bubble is quite an important one, because outside of StarCraft, I'm a pretty emotional person, and I think that I think any one emotional person or not, if they actually read any Twitch chat ever and took it all seriously, they would have a nervous breakdown pretty darn quickly. So
that's a very good point.
That's to be honest, I think that illustrates the point just about as perfectly as you can get. Whoever you choose to take your feedback from, that's fine. No one's there to criticize who you're going to for advice. But what you do want to do is choose where you take your feedback from very carefully and then stick to it. There's no point standing there and saying, well, I have a couple of my friends who maybe, I don't know, used to be radio commentators for something watching the stream, and they'll be able to give me some good feedback on how eloquent I'm sounding. That's really useful, but maybe not in terms of game knowledge, but definitely in terms of how well things flow, how well you're doing your play-by-play and stuff like that. And just remember, listen to them. If someone then goes off on Team Liquid and goes on a mini rant about how a certain section of your casting was absolutely horrible because you were speaking too quickly or you made this sound boring, and you were actually trying to listen to that, don't stop. You know where you're going for advice, stick to it. Because, to be honest, that's when things get messy, and that's when that's when people get really confused and possibly even quit, when they start like not sticking to that and just listening to everything that comes flying at them, because it can be a bit overwhelming.
Yeah. Now, outside of StarCraft a little bit, you have I'm wondering like about your hobbies and stuff you enjoy doing outside of StarCraft, because you mentioned that you have a background in classical music. You seem to have a low opinion of dubstep. Where does all this come from? I'm totally supportive of having a low opinion of dubstep.
I was about to say, I think the opinion on dubstep is more or less accepted. I wouldn't say that's anything particularly special. Jokes aside, I actually think good dubstep is okay. I just don't understand why it's called something other than electronica. Because to me, it sounds like good dubstep sort of overlaps with electronica just enough, and bad dubstep is bad enough that electronica wouldn't want to be associated with it. I kind of get that.
Yeah.
But no, I do come from a background in classical music, which is why I got into broadcasting in the first place, because I happened to have the mic available. But I don't know, to be perfectly honest, I do quite a lot outside of StarCraft, sort of before and during as well. So I'm not really sure where you want me to start. There's potentially a lot to go through.
Well, it's I guess like what I guess let's real quick just hit on the classical music thing, because
okay.
I enjoy music, so I'm curious like how that came about. Is that what you went to school for?
No, that's not what I went to school for. So I grew up playing the piano, and I got to, on paper at least, I would probably have still had to put an awful lot more hours than I did. I got to, give or take, 2 levels below concert pianist standard. I was about 16, 17 years old. And while I was doing this as well, I was a baritone soloist in a choir. And basically I almost want to stereotype and say I got sort of Asian child syndrome, where I was like, I don't really feel like practicing this anymore, and I kind of sort of gave it up, which is, I'm sure anyone would argue now, looking back, people always say, oh yeah, it was a bit of a waste and stuff, but it was how I felt at the time. So I can still play the piano, but nowhere near to the standard I used to be able to. I think if I owned one in London, that might be different, because I'd be able to practice regularly. But that's maybe something for a couple of years down the line when I buy my own place. I'll think about that investment then.
Yeah, and piano is not an impulse buy.
No. I've got a guitar now, though. In fact, it's right here. Hang on.
All right, what do you?
Is the green screen going to mess this up? No, it's not.
Oh,
it just looks like it's weirdly cut off.
What are you? What are you rocking there? What? I've got a few guitars.
Oh, okay. It's a very, very basic acoustic Hudson that I just bought to learn on. Like, it cost under $100. It wasn't a lot.
Yeah, they're wonderful instruments if you don't have a lot of space.
Exactly.
Or not sure about investing in a piano, for example.
It is. It does take up slightly less room than a baby grand, so I am very, very happy for that. But yeah, I'm slowly trying to learn that, and hopefully get to put some stuff out in the next year or two. But that's away from StarCraft, of course. You mentioned I definitely didn't go to university to study music. So I kind of took a very different tangent. There's no real way to transition into this, but I'm an aerospace materials engineer by trade, and
it's different.
It is just a bit different. And throughout uni, I actually I was briefly working for a championship-winning Formula One team as well, which was good fun.
Awesome.
That is too cool. Okay.
It's a weird direction to take. And,
well, no, I saw the picture. So you're a big, is this a horrible term to call it, go-kart fan?
I do race go-karts.
Okay, cool. That is what I was afraid that was like going to be like the little kid version, like saying you're playing with a 4-foot-high basketball hoop instead of a regular one.
depends on if you call 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, little kid version. But go-karting's a very expensive sport, so it's something I haven't really done that competitively for a little while now. But the suit and helmet and kit is still somewhere in my bedroom. I'm sure I can dust that off and give someone a good go for their money at some point. But I really enjoy my motorsport. But coming out of university, I actually took a different direction again. For various reasons, which I won't go into. And I decided that at that time engineering wasn't really for me, even though I really enjoyed my time in Formula One. So I went into business, and I joined an internet startup company, where over 6 months I basically helped them pitch to get currency conversions, because you're American. It's so frustrating. Just under $1.5 million in funding, and a meeting with Google. So that was pretty much
Awesome.
that was pretty much my experience out of uni, and that was really, really good fun and really rewarding because my background wasn't technically in business as well. My family has a strong history in business, but I didn't up to that point. So it was really nice to kind of like prove my mettle, if you will. And coming off of that, I then became self-employed. And I ran a couple of e-commerce businesses. So amusingly, picking up on and using a lot of the skills that I learned as a teenager selling items in Diablo 2 became super handy. And over the next 4 or 5 years, I built up a portfolio of businesses that sold a lot of varying electronics, like video game accessories, for example, laptop chargers and various other things online, really getting into FMCG side of things. And then that was actually going quite well. And that overlaps a lot with me starting in StarCraft as well. That was the reason why last year I took so much time off to go traveling, to go to tournaments, and to really enjoy my time, really try and maximize my opportunities with commentating. And as of August 2012, I actually shut down the vast majority of those businesses. And that was because I got to a point where, yes, it was making good money, but what I didn't want to do was get myself to a point where I was just reaping the rewards, where I was waking up in the morning, doing a post office run each day, and sitting back and counting cash. A lot of people, don't get me wrong, it was great. And a lot of people are sort of sitting there right now might be going, well, why didn't you just keep doing that? And I think I was sort of at the stage of my life where, I mean, I was 25, okay? So it's not something that I'm going to be retiring off of, even though I was successful. And I wanted to be able to go and explore and maybe find a new challenge and try and build up a career for myself outside of being self-employed as well. Because I came to the realization that some people can be self-employed and just go their entire lives doing it. And I think it's possible that I was one of those people. But I also knew that if I had a career, I could always stop that and go back to being self-employed and use the skills that I picked up on the job. But doing it the other way around is a lot more difficult. If I was self-employed and didn't pick up a job until I was 35, trying to convince someone that they should be hiring in at a senior management level where I haven't needed to manage a large team before, can, things like that make the transition the other way around very difficult. So as of January of this year, I'm actually working full-time in digital media, which has been challenging and really, really good fun, and I'm sort of balancing my casting around that as well. I'm actually saving most of my holiday days in case I need to fly out to tournaments and stuff like that, and I'm very tactically using my holiday based around StarCraft. So I more or less have 2 or 3 jobs running concurrently at the moment. So the remainder of my businesses are still running. I'm trying to do as much StarCraft as I can in spare time, and of course find time to play the game too. And I've now got work 9 to 6 during the week, which is part of the reason why scheduling this chat's been a little bit annoying.
Yeah, obviously. Damn, dude, that's impressive.
I was about to say, you're a busy man.
Yeah, that isn't always just a positive thing, though. It's very difficult to keep all the balls up in the air and still try and be good at what you do. I think so far I'm doing okay, but it's only been a couple of months, and you really have to take the long-term view when it comes to things like this as well. So I'm being very mindful of it. I'm just going to make sure that things keep taking over, and just going to keep doing what I do with StarCraft as well, because at the end of the day, busy with other stuff or not, it's a game I love. I really enjoy commentating the game and sort of bringing the story, especially to new fans who wouldn't have otherwise sort of understood really what esports was all about otherwise. And it's really nice to be part of the team that's growing that audience. So I wouldn't give that up for the world.
Well, great, man.
Well, you got IEM in 45 minutes, perhaps.
Is that what time it is? Oops. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So if people want to catch you, I mean, what's some of the favorite things you've casted? If people go straight to look up old videos of you.
Okay, so let me see. So if people have no idea who I am or what I've casted before, I would say go to youtube.com/JoRoSaR. I recently just finished casting DreamHack Summer as one of the community streamers there. I didn't go to the live event this time around. But I have some pretty sick games on my YouTube channel. Maddles actually came up with me and stayed on my floor in London and sort of cuddled up next to me on this webcam. And we were kind of like this for the entire weekend. That was really good. So both of us really enjoyed those games. And there's some pretty good ones on the YouTube channel. For those who wonder, some of the things I did growing up that perhaps weren't on... haven't been discussed here so far, want to know what I do outside of StarCraft? Do give JoRoSaR Bling DDR a quick search on YouTube. And I suspect Garrett's seen the video I'm referring to.
I have, yeah. So
Yeah.
I had a couple of friends growing up who were big into the arcade DDR thing here in the States. I'm sure it was paled in comparison, I'm sure, to how it was over...
Hong Kong was competitive.
Hong Kong, yeah. Yeah.
I bet.
That was good fun. And I guess lastly, if you guys want to catch me on social media, I tweet way too much at twitter.com/JoRoSaR. But it's good fun. When I'm on air, I tend to tweet like the next upcoming match and stuff like that. I'll often be watching GSL on my second monitor on my phone at work and be tweeting about that in my spare time as well. Really excited to be watching as much StarCraft as I can. And I am on Facebook as well at facebook.com/JoRoSaR, which is pretty relevant when I end up going to events and stuff, because it's very, very useful for me to post all the photos I've taken up there. So if you definitely want to check out like what the atmosphere is like in tournaments I've been to, or what it's like behind the scenes, because a couple of photos from there as well, definitely check out my Facebook page. There are a lot of photos there that I think give a pretty good insight to what it's like to work in esports.
Awesome. We'll go check all that out, and thanks so much for coming on. Since this is going to be going at the end of our next live show, I'll go ahead and do our outro as well. StarCast is a production of AMove TV. You can find this and many other awesome shows like This Week in Blizz or the Campaign Roundtable over at amove.tv. TheStarCast.com is the place to go for our forums, archives, t-shirts, and plenty more. We record live every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, except for the 4th of July, over at twitch.tv/TheHandsomeNerd. You can catch our VODs over at youtube.com/StarCastShow, and our podcast is available on the Frog Pants Studios Ultra feed at frogpants.com. Our email is starcastshow@gmail.com, and you can follow us on Twitter at TheStarCast. Big thanks to our production crew, Octane Pro and Captain Noobing, for booking guests and editing the podcast. We thank them very much for their time. And you can check out nomoonart.com for my graphic design and stream design freelance. If you need a freelance artist, check it out. Kyle, where can people find you?
You could also find me at excuse me. Morning voice. Biggest Fan Podcast. We're doing Cosmo Magazine this next week. I have no idea what's after that. So for the future, check it out. I don't know what it'll be.
I cannot wait to listen to you talk about Cosmopolitan.
Oh, the pile. It's technically what Brockett refers to as girly mags, but I think that sounds a little un-PC. So I've also got a bridal magazine in this pile here.
He's wrong. Girly mags or stuff like Playboy. He's Brockett's crazy.
Well, bridal magazines kind of count.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a pretty big one right there.
Yeah, exactly. And then don't forget to check out our sponsors, DoghouseSystems.com, who actually make a racing simulation rig. So, John, maybe you want to go check it out. Our code is StarCast.
I'll take 2.
There you go. That'll get you double memory on your next Doghouse Systems gaming rig. We're also sponsored by TweakedAudio.com. They make noise-reducing earbuds. I can't stand my iPhone earbuds, so if you need a replacement, check them out. It's tweakedaudio.com, and that same code StarCast will get you 30% off and free shipping on your entire order. And finally, SC2 quote of the day. Make sure to go download their new app on the iOS store. Just search for QOTD and get your SC2 quote of the day app. We thank everyone for their support, and especially John for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, best of luck casting IEM, dude, and hopefully we'll see you again in the future.
Definitely. It's been a lot of fun being here. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I'll see you guys again soon.
All right. Have a good one.
Cool. Take care.